you don't have ultimate control over a whole lot of things in your life. You have ultimate control on whether or not you go buy a soft drink, but you don't have ultimate control on whether you lose 20 pounds. You have some control over it though, and some is actually a lot more than you think. On one end, so many people will start with the belief that that's the thing that I have to make, and if I don't get to that goal, then I'm a failure. But you don't have ultimate control on whether or not you actually get there. The only thing that you have control over is what you do today to get there.
Welcome to Thriving with Diabetes, the podcast where we empower people with type 2 diabetes. I am your host, Gamden, a holistic wellness coach. I help people overcome the struggles they face with type 2 diabetes. I believe that with the correct knowledge, mindset, and support, you can manage your health condition effectively and lead a fulfilling life. Today, we have a very special guest joining us, Jerry Scarlato. He is a personal development coach with over 15 years of experience in the health and fitness industry. And he is on a mission to empower people to overcome obstacles and thrive in their health journey. In this episode, it's all about breaking barriers and empowering your diabetes journey. We will be diving deep into the power of mindset and how it can impact your health outcomes, as well as provide you with some practical strategies for identifying and overcoming limiting beliefs and creating sustainable habits. It is always inspiring to learn about our guests' perspectives and experiences. Before we dive into our discussion today, I would love for Jerry to introduce himself, share something about him and what he does. So without further ado, I will hand it over to Jerry. Jerry, welcome to Thriving with Diabetes podcast.
I appreciate it, Gamden, and I got to say, your introduction is pretty spot on as far as I completely agree with you on all those aspects of being able to control your life if you're willing to do the work. And that's really what it comes down to, is being willing to do the work. So being in the health and fitness industry for 15 years, like you've already mentioned, I've had the opportunity to work with thousands of people at this point, hands-on mostly, on improving themselves. Now, why that's important to this audience specifically is because most of those people were between the ages of 45 and 60. And that's where most people with pre-diabetes, insulin resistance, diabetes kind of fit in that demographic. So I've had the opportunity to work with so many people in that demographic and with those metrics where they're trying to overcome some sort of metabolic issue. And I've learned a lot about what holds people back, and it's usually not knowing what to do. It's usually something different. It's usually something internal, but it's internal in the head, not internal in the body.
Brilliant. Very interesting topic to talk about today. And the power or how mindset is important. I believe that mindset plays a crucial role in managing diabetes effectively and other health conditions. Jerry, could you explain why mindset is so important when it comes to dealing with diabetes challenges, and even life challenges, and how our beliefs and attitude can impact our overall health and wellness.
Well, I'll start with the beliefs and then I'll go into why it's important. So, and the reason that I start there is because recently, so I owned a fitness studio for 10 years as well. I just got out of it last year. And for those 10 years, I was never in a normal gym, if you will, because I always just trained at the studio. But recently, I've been in normal gyms more often. And what they're normally playing is the radio. And the commercials that I hear on the radio all revolve around medications. They revolve around hormone replacement therapy, some sort of GLP-1, or some sort of other medication to get you whatever result it is you're looking for. So the reason that I'm starting with beliefs and the reason that I tell that story is because our beliefs are formed by external input. Our beliefs are formed by what we hear most often and most regularly. We hear it from the TV, we hear it from the radio, we hear it from social media, we hear it from our friends, we hear it from our family. And when you look at those inputs, on average, they will tell you and show you that you are not able to control your own health, that if you have diabetes, insulin resistance, or any of these types of things, that you might as well just give in and go ahead and jump on medication and let your doctor take care of you. And everyone else is the same way, so why should you try and be any different? And you build your beliefs unconsciously based on what you see. It just becomes kind of what you believe unless you decide to purposely look for alternative views. And that's where the mindset becomes so important, because there's a saying that unless you make the unconscious conscious, it will dictate your life and you will call it fate. And so many people live unconsciously, not always, and not because they're dumb or stupid, but because you just kind of get in the rhythm of life. And then you just kind of take on what other people tell you or what you hear regularly. So by living unconsciously, you end up building these beliefs and these values, and you end up developing a mindset around that. This is the way things are. This is the way it is, and there's not really a whole lot I can do about it. But then at some point you hear somebody say something different, and they go, hey, if you do X, Y, Z, then you'll be able to start to regulate your blood sugar and potentially start to pull back on your medication or something to that effect. And you go, well, that's weird. I've never heard anybody say that. I wonder if that's true. And then you start to look into it. And then you start to see how other people have done that. And that's why mindset is so important, because when you then start to see how other people have done it, your mind starts to go, oh, I can get better. So I can get better is what you're telling me. And it's literally a quote unquote mindset shift. And from the fixed standpoint, oh, I can't do anything about it, to the growth standpoint, oh, I can actually improve this. I can actually change this. And that little shift, as small and simple as that seems, is so powerful, because it's the difference between you living the same life and succumbing to the health outcomes that you currently have, or you doing something about it and potentially overcoming those health outcomes.
Brilliant. Very interesting information. You mentioned that external sources or influences can form our beliefs in a good or a bad way. This is the first key point you mentioned. And sometimes we live unconsciously, and sometimes we don't know that, and we accept things or circumstances, difficulties as they are, or we think they a reality, and we just continue with them. And last point you mentioned is when we are inspired by others or achievements, and you finished with we need to change the focus or the mindset a little bit so we can start thinking differently. Maybe we can reach to a solution. That is very important, and thank you for sharing these great insights. Let's take a step forward and talk about limiting beliefs. And many people with diabetes may have limiting beliefs that stop them from improving their condition. So if you can share something about common misconceptions or negative beliefs that people may hold about diabetes and how they can identify and overcome these barriers to better manage their health.
Well, that's a great question, because what you get out of life is based very much on your beliefs about what's possible. And I like to think of beliefs as in layers, if you will. So one of the limiting beliefs that so many people have, especially between the age of 45 and 60, is their age. So that is one foundational limiting belief. Because I am 50 years old, I'm not able to get in good shape, or I'm not able to lose weight, or I'm not able to control my diabetes. So that's one foundational limiting belief. If you go a step above that, you might think, well, because I have diabetes, I can't control my blood sugar, or I can't control my insulin production, or whatever. Not production, but my insulin development. So thinking of limiting beliefs in layers is important, because you can kind of like start to peel it down and go, okay, what's like a top limiting belief that I find myself in? When it comes to diabetes, it is, can I control my blood sugar? Well, of course you can control your blood sugar by what you eat, by how you exercise, by the amount of muscle mass that you have, by if you go for a walk after you eat. There's so many things that you can do to control your blood sugar. Then you peel another layer back and you go, well, is it true that because I'm 50 years old that I can't actually get in shape, or I can't actually lose weight? And if you start to look around you and look at other 50-year-olds who have tried to do that, you'll find plenty of people who have done that. You'll find plenty of people who are 50 years old who have lost weight, who have controlled their diabetes, who have done X, Y, Z. So when you start to look for examples, you'll start to open up your eyes to the possibility that you can also do it. And here's the important part. We think that we're special snowflakes. We think that my circumstances are different than everybody else's circumstances, and that's why I'm not going to be able to do it, but they were able to do it. But if there's 7 billion people on Earth, it's unlikely that you, out of 7 billion people, are the one person that can't make the necessary changes. It's very unlikely. So getting out of the mindset, limiting belief, if you will, that you're special in that way, you're special in a different way, but that you're special in that way, that you can't do anything because of your circumstances, is so necessary, because there's 7 billion people. So you can do it, but you have to open your eyes to the possibility that you can do it. And then you have to start to layer back these limiting beliefs, starting with the basic ones. Is it true that I can't control my blood sugar and insulin and so on and so forth? And then going underneath of that, regarding age, regarding sex, regarding all these other things, and then going even deeper than that. So that's how limiting beliefs will literally keep you in your place or help you move forward. And that's how you can start to look at them and just say, the question that I like to ask is this true? When you have a thought pop into your head that wants to stop you from doing something when it comes to your diabetes, ask, is this true? And then look for the alternative view. Don't just look for something that supports your view, because you'll find that too. And that's the problem, is confirmation bias. We want to find the things that support our view, but we won't take the time to find the things that don't support our view, that are the alternative to our view.
Brilliant. I like the idea when you mentioned when you have a belief is the first step, or the first thing you can do is ask yourself, is it true or not? Sometimes I might say, I cannot do this, or I can, and without trying. But when I start questioning it or trying to do it, I will find it's easy, or I can do it. And this is a very valuable point you mentioned. Thank you for sharing that. Let's talk about someone who just shift his mindset and started to look at things differently. And now we are talking about growth mindset. And can you talk about what it means to have a growth mindset in the context of living with diabetes or other health conditions?
Yeah, so I think first it's important to understand kind of what the difference between growth mindset and fixed mindset is, which we kind of hit on at the beginning of this. This research was made public, or made I don't know what the word am I looking for, was made. Anyway, I'm going to keep moving forward. This simple word that I'm thinking of is like buried in my tongue somewhere. But made popular, jeez, oh Pete's, was made popular by Carol Dweck, and she wrote a book called Mindset. And it's a very thin book, so I recommend you can read the first maybe 100 pages and you'll get the gist of mindset. But you either have a fixed mindset or a growth mindset, or you're somewhere on the continuum. It's not that you just have a fixed mindset or you just have a growth mindset. You're on the continuum somewhere, because you may have a growth mindset in some areas, but a fixed mindset in other areas. So that's important. Most people have more of a fixed mindset in their health. A fixed mindset essentially says that I can't do anything about the outcomes in my life. There's nothing that I can do. This is the way that it is. I was born this way. My genetics are this way. My age keeps me from doing things. My gender keeps me from doing things. My race keeps me from doing things, whatever the fixed belief is. A growth mindset, on the other hand, states that you can control or you can impact your circumstances. Now, you can never fully control them, but you can impact them. A growth mindset simply believes that you have some sort of agency over yourself and you have some sort of ability to impact the world around you. So instead of, oh, my age is what's holding me back and I believe I can't do anything because my age, the person with a growth mindset might think, oh, well, I'm 50 years old, but I still know that I can do X, Y, Z to get myself to lose 10 pounds, or I can do X, Y, Z to get myself in better shape. So that's the big difference between the two. You either believe that you can do something and impact the world or impact yourself, or you believe that you can't impact it in any way. That's growth mindset versus fixed mindset. It's so important to understand that basic thing, and it's so important to start to shift your thoughts around your beliefs about what's possible, because like I said, your beliefs on whether or not something can be done and you can do something about it form your mindset. My belief that my age is what's keeping me from making progress and keeping me from improving my diabetes forms your mindset around it, and that makes it fixed. If you start to shift and go, maybe it's not my age, maybe I can still do something even though I'm 50 years old, maybe I can still improve my blood sugar even though I'm 50 years old, that small nudge starts to shift your mindset just a little bit into the growth direction. And the goal is to slowly continue to shift toward the growth direction. Not not to be irrational about things. This isn't about being unrealistic by any stretch. I would actually argue that people with a growth mindset are more realistic because they're able to view things from a wider perspective. Whereas somebody with a fixed mindset typically views things through a very narrow lens. I can't do things. And then when you hear feedback that maybe you can, you go, no, I can't. It's because of this. I can't do it. That's unrealistic, if you will. So if you want some sort of, if you want to understand that you can start to create a difference in your life, making that shift to the other side, just slowly nudging yourself to look at things a little differently and slowly nudging yourself to believe just a little differently or just ask a different question. Is this true? Just asking that question and then looking for the opposite view will start to nudge you toward that growth mindset.
Brilliant. Thank you for sharing that information. Very helpful comparison between fixed mindset and growth mindset. Great that you mentioned that there are things that we cannot control, which is fine. But there are many things we can improve or manage it better. We cannot get things like 100% right or correct, but we can have a sort of impact on it, do it for our own favor, if that term is right. So then we can move forward or progress. Is that correct?
Yes. So the way that I like to think about it is ultimate control versus some control. You don't have ultimate control over a whole lot of things in your life. You have ultimate control on whether or not you go buy a soft drink, but you don't have ultimate control on whether you lose 20 pounds. You have some control over it though, and some is actually a lot more than you think. And that idea right there also hurts people a lot because so many people start their New Year's resolutions wanting to lose weight. That's most New Year's resolutions. And so if you have the goal of losing 20 pounds, on one end, so many people will start with the belief that that's the thing that I have to make. And if I don't get to that goal, then I'm a failure. But you don't have ultimate control on whether or not you actually get there. The only thing that you have control over is what you do today to get there. That's what you have control over. So it's an outcome-based control versus a process-based control. You don't have ultimate control over the outcome. You have ultimate control over the process that you take to get to the outcome, which significantly increases or decreases your likelihood of getting there. So for instance, if you're a diabetic and you want to improve your blood sugar, you don't have ultimate control on whether or not your blood sugar gets to the point of where it needs to be, but you have the control, the process control on whether or not you go buy a 12-pack of sodas and stick them in your fridge. You have total control on whether or not you have that Snickers bar at lunch. That's what you have control over. And it's doing those things over and over and over and over and over again that increase the likelihood of you getting to the outcome.
Brilliant. Thank you for sharing that. You are making us or who are listening and watching to us think differently. So that's how we should look at things from different perspectives. I want to talk about how setting positive intentions can provide a roadmap for success in diabetes or overall health. could you share some insights on why setting clear positive intentions is important for people with type 2 diabetes?
So we are the most important person to impress when it comes to making progress in our lives. And so when you set intentions for your future actions or goals or outcomes that you're trying to achieve, when you set intentions on those and you start to fulfill those intentions, you start to build a bigger belief about who you are, and you start to build confidence in your ability to do it. But the goal is follow through. So when you start to set, and intentions are just like the things that I want to do to be able to fulfill this outcome, to be able to get to this outcome. An intention may be, for instance, that after I'm finished with lunch, I won't grab anything out of the candy bar. That's just a simple intention that I'm not going to do. I'm not going to grab, if previous you used to do that, your next intention, your new positive intention would be that after lunch, I'm not going to grab anything out of the candy bar or out of the candy jar. And the more that you follow through with that, this is the important part. The more you follow through with that intention, with the intention of not grabbing anything out of the candy jar, the more belief you build in your capabilities to do it, to continue to follow through. We look at making changes in our lives as either I can do it or I can't do it, which is why so many people quit their New Year's resolutions after 6 weeks, because they think either I can't do it, I have it, or I don't have it. But it's about following through with what you say you're going to do. If you set an intention to do something and you follow through with it, then you will build your own personal belief. You will build confidence in yourself. You will build inner self-worth, and you'll believe that you're capable of doing it again next time. And then when you do it the time after that, your belief is even that much higher. And it slowly just notches up more and more and more. The more often you fulfill that intention, the more often you follow through with what you say you're going to do. So the goal is to show up every day, fulfill those things that you say you're going to do for that day, go to sleep, wake up, and then do it again. Literally just checking those things off the list. And all those things are intentions. Here's what I'm going to do to better myself today. I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this. And when you check those off the list for that one day, just one day, you become a stronger person. And you go to sleep and you wake up, and then you just have another day to do at that point. Instead of thinking in this big, broad, abstract idea of, oh, I got to do this forever, or I got to do this. How long do I have to do this? Think of what you want to do for that day. Check those intentions off for the day, and just see how strong you are after the course of a very short period of time.
Brilliant. Very interesting information about positive intentions and how we can just develop a habit for setting clear goals, even if they are small. Just start with something small, then you build up around that. When people hit with diabetes or other health conditions, they can face struggles or challenges in life. So how can people with a health condition like diabetes build a resilience so they can overcome challenges related to health or life?
So this is the part that people miss when it comes to starting their health and fitness journey, is the mental part. This is the very first thing that we talked about. It is the mental part. that people miss. This is what has been missing from health and fitness from the very beginning. You could walk up to somebody, Gamden, and say, what do you need to do to lose weight? And I almost guarantee it 10 times out of 10, people will give you at least some rational answer, some answer that will help them. So we have the education. We know what to do. What is missing is the resilience and the mental toughness to just keep moving forward. And it starts again by understanding a few basic things and changing your mindset about how long this is going to take and how much effort it's going to take. Because what we're sold in society is instant gratification. If I can go back to the example of GLP-1, GLP-1s now being used for weight loss. They were previously mostly or only used for diabetes for a long time. Now they're also being sold for weight loss. Why are they being sold for weight loss? Well, to lose weight quickly. The irony is, when you take the GLP-1, they also tell you you still have to exercise and eat well. But all you're going to do is lose it faster. So if we're constantly sold, do this faster, instead of, if you just do this, you'll get there anyway, or understanding that it's going to take time to get to whatever it is you're trying to do, and that it's going to take a level of effort to get to whatever it is you're trying to do, then we can start to understand and build that mental toughness. Because the journey takes time. If you can understand that the journey takes time, it takes not weeks, not months, it takes years and longer. If you are starting a change in your life, presumably you want to continue the change. That's my assumption. If you say you want to lose 20 pounds, I assume you want to keep the 20 pounds off. I assume you want to keep all the health benefits that come with keeping that 20 pounds off as well. That's my assumption. If that is the case, then you have to understand that this is a lifetime thing. And if it is a lifetime thing, and you start to wrap your head around this being a lifetime thing, that alone will start to shift your mental ability to push through obstacles. Because you'll go, okay, this is just another obstacle, and once I get to the other side of this, I'm just going to keep going anyway. So it's understanding that this is a long time. It's a lifetime thing. It's what I like to say until you're checked off the list, until you're done. Hopefully it's a long time for everybody, but it's until you're done. And the other part of that is understanding that obstacles will happen. It's not a matter of if they'll happen. It's a matter of when they'll happen. I think people are surprised when things pop up, whenever they hit a plateau in their health, or whenever their schedule changes and all of a sudden they have to overcome some conflict, or something in their family goes awry and, they don't get their food prepped for the week or whatever. Like, people are surprised whenever things don't go the way that they plan for them to go. And planning's great. I'm a big believer in it. But you should also plan for obstacles. You should plan for things to go wrong. And that's, speaking of intentions, this is actually a perfect example. There's an idea called implementation intentions. When you are planning something out and you start to look at what are the obstacles I could potentially run into, you can set what's called an implementation intention. If X happens, then I'll do this. So an example is, if I forget to bring my lunch to work, then I'll go to Chipotle and I'll get a salad bowl or whatever. Like, you set the intention of what you're going to do, and again, you follow through with the intention. If you can understand obstacles will happen, and you can start to maybe create some options for those obstacles, then you'll develop that mental toughness, because you'll figure out that you can problem solve. You can overcome obstacles. You can be mentally stronger. So understanding it's going to take a long time, and then just understanding, hey, this obstacles will happen. I just got to prepare as best I can.
Brilliant. Very interesting information. I liked this part a lot. The main point of it is a person should be mentally strong, and that takes time to develop. I was listening to someone who was saying the lion is not the strongest animal, but with his mentality and mindset, I mean, he has a tough and strong mindset, so he is controlling everything, or other animals fear him just because of his mentality and attitude. What do you think of that?
So here's a perfect scenario. That's wonderful. I'll give you a perfect example, and I think most people will understand this. Let's say that there's two people that are getting ready to play, let's say, a match of tennis against each other. And they're the exact same height, they have the exact same physicality, the exact same muscle mass, the exact same physical attributes, the exact same everything physically. Their physical abilities are the exact same. What decides who wins? The answer is very simple. It is the person with the mental resilience to not get flustered. It's the person with the mental fortitude to not get thrown off when things aren't going the way. It's the person with the mental stamina to keep going even though they're kind of tired. Oh, I'm a little tired. Well, I got to keep going. I have to if I'm going to win this thing. If you translate that to life, the person who, quote, wins in diabetes, wins in health, wins in fitness, quote unquote, is the person who has the mental stamina to push through when they're a little tired. Oh, I just got off work. I'm a little tired, but I told myself on Mondays I'd go work out, so I got to go work out. That's what I have to do. You get halfway through the workout and you're like, oh, I'm a little tired. Maybe I'll slow down. No, I know if I slow down, then I won't expend the energy that I need to expend, and I won't get the most out of this exercise. So you keep pushing forward. It's the person who has the mental resilience to, whenever they see a temptation in front of them and someone goes, hey, you want some cake? When you're at a birthday party, you go, no, I'm not the type of person who eats cake. That's the person who, quote unquote, wins in health and fitness, who has the mental resilience and stamina and strength to overcome those things. And it takes time to do it, but you just got to choose to start doing
Brilliant. Very interesting. And thank you for sharing this good example. Last time when we met, you were interested in talking about sustainable habits, which are essential for long-term health and wellness, specifically for people managing diabetes. My question is, what are some actionable steps or tips that people can implement to create and maintain sustainable lifestyle habits that support their diabetes goals?
That's a great question. So now that we have the, quote, fluffy stuff out of the way, right? We've talked about the mental part of it, which again, go back and listen to all that Gamden and I have talked about, because that is so important, and that is literally what people miss. So, and of course, there are actions that you can take to literally then change your physicality or impact your biology to be able to make it better. So the first thing that I always think of is what's going to have the longest lasting impact. Muscle is the body's most effective organ at not producing, but at processing sugar, if you will. It stores sugar very effectively, very effectively. The average person sits 8 to 10 hours a day. As you can imagine, that's not very muscle stimulating. So if you start with some muscle training, and typically that's in the weight room, but that can also be body weight training. It could be something like yoga or something along those lines, but that's not muscle stimulating in the way we talk about. What we're talking about is basically training your muscles to quote unquote eat glucose. Like it sounds silly, but muscles are what I like to call a glucose dump. They are so effective at storing glucose that when you have enough of them and they function well, then it will help control your blood sugar. So figure out some way to build in some sort of weight training into your life. At least 2 days a week, if you can, 3 to 4 days a week. It doesn't have to be 2 hours at a time. It can be 45 minutes. It can be 30 minutes, really, if that's all you have. That can be very effective if you get in and you don't mess around and you get it done and you get out. 30 minutes can be effective. So weight training is one of the most effective things you can do to improve the function of your muscle, because that's important. Because the argument that I hear is big people tend to have muscle on them. But the thing is, there's a difference between having muscle on you and having functional muscle. If the muscles aren't functioning correctly and they're not, quote, processing the sugar correctly, it doesn't matter. So training yourself trains your muscles to function, to actually be able to do that effectively. And then hopefully you put a little lean mass on. And I'm not talking about getting big and bulky. No, you are not going to get big and bulky if you get in the weight room, especially women. It's not going to happen. So it's not going to happen. But hopefully you do put a couple of pounds of lean mass on. And it's also one of the most effective ways to burn long-term energy, because the more muscle you have on your body, the more energy you burn at rest. So you knock so many good things out whenever you weight train. That's why I'm such a big fan, and that's why I start with that. Figure out some way to get in the weight room. Some way, shape, or form. At least 2 days, if not 3 or 4. Outside of that, a few other quick tips. One that's very effective is go for a walk after you eat. Don't just sit there, because when you sit there, your blood sugar will spike higher if you just eat and then sit. Because so many people eat at their desk, or if they're home, they just eat wherever they're working, and then they just sit there. As soon as you're finished eating, get up and go for a walk, at least 10 minutes. Get a 10-minute walk in, and that'll help flush that blood sugar down and kind of bring that blood sugar down a little bit. And that alone will also be another quick, effective way to kind of start to regulate that blood sugar. That's another very simple, effective thing. So those are two of the, again, there's plenty more. There's so many more, but those are the two that I don't think many people think about that are worth mentioning.
Brilliant. Thank you for sharing these helpful tips so people can start implementing them. The next thing is talking about motivation. You know, staying motivated can be a challenge for many people. Can you share something about motivation and how to keep going?
So motivation is a lie. And here's what I mean by that. The number of times that I've seen people quit because they say that I'm just not motivated right now, I couldn't tell you. It's probably, if 10 people walk through the door, 5 of them will quit because of that. About 50% will quit because they say, I'm just not motivated right now. It may not be in 6 weeks, but it might be in 3 months, and it might be in 6 months. So you have to understand first that the motivation that most people talk about is a feeling. It is a feeling, just like anger is a feeling, just like happiness is a feeling, just like other feelings are feelings. It's a feeling, and it comes and goes. It's fleeting. So if you expect motivation to be the thing that carries you forward, then you will never continue to move forward. You just won't, because motivation doesn't just stick around. So That's the first mindset shift, if you will, is understanding that the type of motivation that you're looking for and wanting is not the thing that's going to sustain you. It's great whenever you have it, take advantage of it and barrel forward. But when it goes, that's when habits become habits, and that's when your identity really changes. When motivation goes away and you choose to quit, you are reinforcing the old you that you're trying to move away from. But when motivation goes away and you choose to move forward, then you're building a different person. And that's the point. When you become the kind of person who does what you say you're going to do, who follows through with the things that you say you're going to do, then motivation to you is just a thing that you get to enjoy from time to time. And the rest of the time, it's just who you are. I am the kind of person who works out Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 8 o'clock. I am the kind of person who has protein at every meal. I am the kind of person who drinks 20 ounces of water first thing in the morning. It's when you do those things regularly and that's just who you are. Like I said, motivation is not the thing that you're looking for. So you have to understand motivation is not what you think that it is. When you find it, great, use it, but don't rely on it. As soon as it goes away, tell yourself, if I'm going to make this a sustainable part of my life, then I have to do what I said I'm going to do, and I have to follow through with my word. And then you build self-worth, and that's when you become unstoppable, when you start to build belief in yourself.
Brilliant. Thank you for sharing that information about motivation. Your answer, is what it wasn't expected to be like that, but I agree with you. I think it's a temporary state, and sometimes people say it's for beginners or to help someone just to get started, but it's not a sustainable strategy or something you can build your plan or strategy around it. So it's a temporary state, is something just maybe to help you start something, but you cannot continue based on motivation. Is that correct?
100%. That is 100%. And actually, most of the time when I would meet with people in the beginning and they came in and they're like, "Yeah, I'm ready to go. Let's get going. I'm going to sign up. I'm going to be in here 5 days a week." I'd go, "Okay, hold on, take a deep breath. Breathe and slow down for a second. What are the things that are going to get in your way? What are the things that are going to stop you?" Because with that high level of motivation, which most people think that's what I need to get going forward, they completely black out from the world. And that's when problems do start to pop up, that's the kind of person that gets thrown completely off, because they don't think about the problems that are going to pop up when they're starting, because they're so excited to get started. Well, that's great that you want to get started, and you should if you feel motivated to do it. But take the time to still recognize that it's the motivation that's starting you, and that things are going to pop up and obstacles are going to pop up. So when you're getting started, don't go, "Oh, I'm going to go ahead and start working out 5 days a week, and I'm going to change my nutrition, and I'm going to completely wipe out my cupboard, and everything's going to be completely different," because it's likely that it's not going to work out. So take a deep breath and go, "Okay, that's fine. I'm ready to go, but where am I? And what do I see? What are the trains that I see coming my way that I'm going to have to block and get out of the way of? And how do I make it sustainable moving forward?"
Thank you for sharing that. Very interesting. As mentioned, I agree with you. Myself, personally, I started relying on motivation, then I moved to discipline, which is a better strategy to continue what you want to achieve. Maybe we need to touch a little bit about progress and wins. So it's a way of encouragement. You can call it maybe a motivation to move forward when we celebrate even small wins. Can you touch a little bit about that?
Well, it's going to be especially the small wins that keep you moving forward, I would say, because there are many less big wins than there are small wins. It's just the way that it is. Like, that's just the way that it is. This is like the perfect place to stop because we can start to put things together right here. So most people look at the big outcome. I want to lose 30 pounds. I want to lose 40 pounds. I want to get my A1C down to XYZ, whatever. They look at the big outcome and they think of that as the only win, right? Like, that's the only way that I win this thing, that I come out on top, if you will. And if that's the only way, then again, it's likely that's not going to work out. It's likely that you'll quit. It's likely that you'll fail. History shows that over and over and over again. It's just fact. So it is primarily the small wins that you have to pay attention to. And if you're looking for little bits of motivation, which is important, it's necessary. It's necessary to pay attention to those small wins. And that may be actually strategically sitting down every so often and saying, okay, how have I improved? What has gotten better? And it can't only be the one metric that you're trying to track, weight or A1C or whatever. It can't only be that. Hopefully that's improved, but maybe it hasn't. If you want to become a better person overall and you want to improve your health overall, there's thousands of different ways to pay attention to that. Your clothes may fit different. You may be able to walk up the stairs without getting out of breath. You may be able to stand up out of a chair without needing help or needing to push off the armrests. There's so many different ways that you can. One of the things that I think about, my clients who actually ended up being one of our coaches at Thrive, when she was a client of mine, one of the things that she told me that she was excited about, that was a win for her, was she was able to open glass bottles with her left hand. So it's those small things that are worth paying attention to that will also keep you moving forward. And they are necessary to pay attention to, because it's when you downplay those small things that you're also downplaying your effort. And if you're putting in effort, it's worth recognizing the small wins that are happening, because otherwise, why are you doing it? Well, that's not really that important. Well, then you're basically telling yourself your effort's not that important. And then you're layering that on top of, that your health is not that important. Well, it is. And your effort's important. And it's definitely having outcomes, because you got plenty of small wins listed right there. So to your point, Gamden, those small wins it's not only nice to look at them, it's necessary to look at them, because it will be a sense of motivation, which is great. But also, it's going to be the thing that's going to keep you moving forward.
Brilliant. Very interesting.
So
Yeah.
that's a
Are
good
you
point.
saying break your big goals into milestones or steps, small steps, achieve one by one, celebrate each achievement until you reach the final goal. Maybe you won't, I don't see, maybe you will not be able to achieve it 100%, but if you reach 10% is good, 20% is good, 50% is good. Is that correct?
Definitely breaking it down. Yeah, definitely breaking it down is important. And like we said in the beginning, you don't have ultimate control on whether or not you reach it. But there's a very high likelihood that if you just keep going, you'll reach it. And that's what most people will get wrong, is that they just don't keep going. So while you don't have control, like, I'm going to reach this thing, if you just go long enough, like, you'll reach it. That requires you changing things along the way and overcoming obstacles. But if you just keep going, then there's a very high likelihood that you'll actually get there. But yes, checking those things off the list. Good, great. Lost 2 more pounds, lost 2 more pounds, lost 2 more pounds, and patting yourself on the back. Here's the thing. When people think of celebration, it's not like a celebration is not like going out and having a junk meal or going out and doing something stupid and going getting belligerently drunk or something ridiculous like that. Like that's not a celebration. A celebration could be as simple as just acknowledging that it happened. It could be as simple as, oh, I just lost 2 pounds. Wow, that feels kind of good. That feels good to lose 2 pounds. Like it could be as simple as that. Because we so easily look at the negative things and so often overlook the positive things that just looking at it more often will start to shift your mindset and will help keep you moving forward. So that's understanding that a celebration doesn't have to be some big extravagant thing, and as a matter of fact, it probably shouldn't be. It should be just an acknowledgement of your effort and acknowledgement of your progress. Hey, I did this. I did this work, and here's what I did.
Brilliant. Very interesting. I have got another question before we finish this episode. What inspiring message or advice would you like to leave with our viewers and listeners?
Well, so we've talked about a lot. And so it's worth going back what Gandon and I have talked about and listening again. I think one of the things that people also miss is and I've hit on it a few times, but self-confidence and self-worth, if you will. So their belief that they can actually do something and the confidence to follow through with it and their worth that they're valuable enough to do it. And that sounds harsh saying that, but having worked again with thousands of people at this point, hands-on most of them, the amount of times that I've seen people be held back because they don't have the confidence to do it, or because they don't believe that they're worthy of it. Again, I can't count the number of times that that's happened. So one of the important shifts that are worth starting to just recognize is when you're stopping yourself because of a lack of self-confidence or a lack of self-worth. When you're stopping yourself from making a good decision, from improving your health in some way, when you're sabotaging yourself, when you starting to recognize when that's happening and figuring out if it's because you're lacking confidence in that moment or if you're lacking your belief in your worth in that moment. And that can be some of the most powerful moments when you start to recognize that that's happening, because then you can start to make different decisions and start to build a belief in yourself. Because like I said, you're the most important person on this earth to impress. And you do that by recognizing what you're doing to sabotage yourself and slowly taking actions to overcome that.
Brilliant. Thank you for sharing your great inspiring message. So, self-confidence and self-worth. Very interesting. Thank you for sharing that. How can people find you if they want to get in touch with you, learn more about you and what you do?
So there's a couple of ways. I have a podcast as well called Good Wolf Project. If you go to goodwolfproject.us, there's a form there where you can put in your name and your email, and you'll get my self-confidence cycle, which is basically the 4 steps that you can take to start to recognize when you're lacking in self-confidence, whether that's in a broader sense or in a narrower sense. So within a moment, how you can start to become aware, and then what you can do to start to redirect that energy. So you can go to goodwolfproject.us and you can get that. The other simple way to do it is on Instagram at Jerry Scarlato, Scarlato. I'm there, and you can easily reach me on direct message on Instagram.
Brilliant. Is that a quiz on your website or?
Oh, I'm sorry. It's just a form, just name and email.
Okay.
And then what you get is a PDF that tells you the 4 steps to the cycle, to the self-confidence cycle. and how to use them.
Brilliant. Thank you for sharing your contact information and that guide or PDF guide as well. Thank you for sharing that. Is there anything else you want to mention before we wrap up this episode?
Well, I appreciate you, Gamden. I appreciate what you're doing for people with diabetes, insulin resistance, pre-diabetics, because that number is growing. You know this very well. That number is growing, and it'll continue to grow over the next couple of decades. And so your work on the impact of these people is going to be profound, because it's this group of people that if they can start to shift their mindset around what's possible, the impact that'll have on their health, it'll be phenomenal. So thank you for the work that you're doing.
Thank you, Jerry. We have come to the end of this episode. I would like to express my sincere gratitude for our amazing guest, Jerry Scarlato, for generously sharing his expertise, insights, and time with us. I also want to thank all of you, our dedicated viewers and listeners, for being a part of this episode. If you need additional assistance or guidance, I encourage you to book a call with me at wellnessimpact.org. If you found this episode insightful and valuable, I invite you to join our community of people committed to thriving with diabetes. To stay up to date for upcoming episodes, empowering discussions, and practical tips, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on social media. Once again, thank you, Jerry, for being our guest today. Thank you, everyone, for joining us on this impactful journey. Until next time, take care of your health and keep thriving.